Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're taking a look at the 10 hardest Borderlands boss fights.
I just wanted to be loved! Man about tap!
For this list, we're looking at the most insane and psychotic bosses we've ever encountered across the Borderlands franchise. Did any of these bosses give you a hard time? Share your frustration with us in the comments below. Keep it civil.
Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
The Warrior and Handsome Jack. Borderlands 2.
Turn it out! One more turn, kid!
Now, we're not kicking off the list by saying something heretic, like, duh, the Warrior is too hard because blah blah blah. We won't lie. The Warrior, and Handsome Jack, is quite a challenge.
Hey, help!
The Warrior will unleash fiery attacks and even raise the level of the lava to force you onto higher ground. Jack, on the other hand, will fire at you with his own arsenal while calling in loader bots for assistance. Oh, and then you have all the Racks and Crystalisks rampaging around too. Yeah, there's a lot going on, and if you're going solo, this might be a bit of a challenge.
That's right, let her mow you down! You're all gonna die!
Billy the Anointed, Borderlands 3. Anointed enemies are already a pain in the ass. This variant of enemies had a nasty habit of abusing phase lock abilities, and the many other Siren abilities on top of being bullet sponges. Billy the Anointed, however, takes being a nuisance to a whole other level. Most of his attacks will cause knockback, so prepare to jump around quite a bit. On top of that, he teleports around and gets up in your business quite a lot throughout the fight, all while screaming his little anointed heart out. Just keep firing at his head and use whatever explosives you've got to make this go by quicker. Your patience is going to be put to the test here, but it's the key to beating this boss.
Whatever! Kill as many anointed as you want.
Kilovolt, Borderlands 3.
I just wanted to be loved! Man about tap!
There is almost nothing likable about Kilovolt. As a character, he is super obnoxious with his constant screaming and his obsession with women. As a boss though, he will constantly harass you. First off, he will often hide behind his shield like the coward he is, while barraging you with shock-based attacks. And then there are the moments where he's getting his butt handed to him, so he summons his minions to attack. How predictable. Just make sure you've got yourself a good shield capacity and recharge rate, and you should be okay here. Bunker, Borderlands 2.
You see, you're not at the bunker right now. The bunker isn't a place.
Of the base version of Borderlands 2, you know, without all the DLC, Bunker is arguably way harder than the final fight against the Warrior and Handsome Jack. Here you have this giant warship with a huge health bar and attacks with high DPS. However, that will be the least of your worries. Throughout the war, you'll fight swarms of loader bots of various types, especially exploders, warbots, and more. You're definitely going to run out of bullets a few times here, so find those windows where you can focus on one thing or the other. The Destroyer, Borderlands. Now, when talking about the Destroyer, most Borderlands fans have no good things to say about the boss, and rightfully so. You know, this was why the first Borderlands had a really bad ending to begin with, but there are other reasons. In order to stand a chance, you basically need to get the best gear in the entire game, which means you'll need to do just about everything there is to do. Do all the side missions, grind for XP, the whole 9 yards. Even when you get the best gear possible, you're still going to suffer a few casualties, regardless if you're fighting alone or with a full party. Really, Destroyer's a pain in the ass, man. This is why we don't play the first Borderlands. Handsome Sorcerer, Borderlands 2, and Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, you know, the standalone one from last year.
Here it is, the big boss! Are you sure you don't want to wait for Roland?
We can't wait for Roland because he's...
for a boo fight!
Your mileage may vary when it comes to really liking this fight, or really hating it. Handsome Jack's tabletop RPG counterpart is kind of a jerk throughout the entire battle. His first form basically sees him creating clones of himself. That's just his default form too.
You're gonna want.
His necrotic variant keeps raising his dead minions back up to prolong the fight, and his final demonic form summons dragons to help him while he casts fire spells. It all gets pretty annoying pretty quickly when dealing with him alone, so make sure you're leveled up properly. Really, don't be like me who just went in headstrong and just started unloading ammunition. Pain and Terror, featuring the Agonizer 9000, Borderlands 3. This duo is ready to bring the torment in more ways than one. While using a mechanized menace known as the Agonizer 9000, Pain and Terror can be overwhelming. See, you're dealing with a machine that doubles as the very arena you're fighting in.
What kind of show do you think this is?
They'll throw giant buzzsaws in various directions, activate rings of fire, try to mash you with spiked plating, and even create barriers for their lackeys to use as cover. Even though it can be kinda gruesome at times, it's one of the few highlights that Borderlands 3 had.
Laser!
The Empyrean Sentinel, Borderlands the pre-sequel. You want to talk about how incredibly difficult bosses can be in an unfair way, or bosses that extend the fight far too many times? The Empyrean Sentinel is definitely one that infuriated many of us, especially me. I'm speaking from experience here. I hate this boss. While there are ways to use the low gravity to your advantage, especially if you're using certain O2 kits, what gets irritating is having to constantly cycle between all of the elemental types like a madman. On top of that, it holds way more shields than most bosses tend to hold, and will pretend it's finally dead only to resurrect itself several times. Dude, the end is the end. Let it be the end, for God's sake. In other words, you're going to be super peeved by the end of this. This is why I haven't played pre-sequel in years. Ancient Dragons of Destruction, Borderlands 2. Now, we would have lumped these guys in with our final entry, but the Ancient Dragons of Destruction are in a league of their own when it comes to difficulty. To defeat these oversized lizards, you are virtually required to have a full party of high-leveled players to stand a chance. Otherwise, this ain't gonna work. Each dragon specializes in an elemental ability, which means you and your friends will have to coordinate, get good at weapon swapping, and shooting weak spots. Do not try this one solo. It's possible, but it rarely works. Rarely. Either that, or you're just gonna have to no-life this game for a few months, or years, and get yourself to a high enough level. The invincible bosses, and there's a lot of them. These kinds of bosses could have very easily flooded the list, but that wouldn't have made for an interesting video, now would it? No, we had to slap every boss with Invincible attached to their name in one entry, because in all honesty, they're all bullshit. Every one of them, Cromarax, Terramorphous, all of them are bullshit. While some of them do contain exploits for you to defeat them solo, they are for the most part designed specifically for you and friends to tackle together. So if you are the only one in your circle playing Borderlands, well, I guess it's time to make some new friends, bub.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, there's more where that came from.